almost for 4 years now. Joined with the team in Brazil, and now moved 3 years ago to our head office in Miami. Before I worked for a South American textile company for close to 6 years in a turnaround case, and before that with some management consulting companies at the beginning of my career for 7 years. How can I change the slides?
Yeah, right there, the green at the top, that's the laser pointer.
Okay, Aura Minerals is a diversified and growing gold and copper producers with operations in the Americas. We have been ranked #1 on the TSX third ranking in the last 2 years. It's the first time a company finishes in first on TSX for 2 years in a row. We are a growth case. We grew our production by over 90% in the last 4 years, and we have projects which we're going to put in production in the next few years and grow another 86% by 2025. Some of our projects are among the most profitable in the gold sector. One of them has an expected internal rate of return of over 100% per year. And we are, besides being a growth case, we are also a dividend case. We paid 13.5% in dividends in 2021. It was the highest yield in our sector in the world at the time. And last year we returned another 6% between dividends and buybacks to our shareholders. So as I was saying, we focus on the Americas. In 2022, 70% of our revenues came from gold and 30% from copper. We have currently 3 operating assets. We have the Aranzazu gold and copper mine in Mexico, underground mine. We have the Sandres open pit gold mine in Honduras, and we have the EPP open pit gold mine in Brazil. These 3 assets in operations produced over 240,000 ounces of gold equivalent in 2022. And over $130 million in EBITDA last year. Besides these 3 assets in production, we have several other assets to put in production in the next few years. We have 3 of them in our business plan to build and put in production in 23, 24, and 25. The 3 of them are in Brazil, the Almas project in the state of Tocantins, the Borborema project in Rio Grande do Norte, and the Matupá project in Mato Grosso. When we put these 3 projects in construction, we should reach 450,000 ounces of gold equivalent by 2025. Right now, our cash position, even after starting building some of these projects, is over $130 million, and our net debt over EBITDA is just 0.5 times. So we are in a comfortable position to keep building these projects while paying dividends. Little bit on our results in this since the beginning of this story in the last few years. As I said, our production grew by 80% when you look at revenue. Over 150% in this semi-period. The adjusted EBITDA increased by 22 to 134 million, so more than 6 times, by putting some of these assets in production, benefiting from a better gold and copper prices, of course, during this period. But also would like to highlight that we have been able to keep our cash costs under control. We come from 2018 over $130 per ounce of gold equivalent to below 900 by the end of 2022. So we moved clearly from the 3rd quartile to the 2nd quartile in the cash cost curve, and that has been benefiting our profitability significantly. The 3 projects that we're building and will deliver in the next few years have an expected cash cost below the average of the company. So we expect to see this trend to continue in the next years. Here a little bit more detail on our growth path and growth to come in the future. This increase between 2018 and 2022 came mainly by putting the Mexico assets in production in 2019 and then increasing it by 30% in 2021. And now for 23, we are anticipating additional growth. We're projecting between 254 to 292 ounces of gold equivalent this year. One of our assets, Almas project in Tocantins, Brazil, should start production by April next month and reach commercial production by July. That's gonna help the increase in production this year. For 24, we're gonna have this new project full production instead of just 6 months, and we expect to have Borborema project coming production by the end of 24, and by 2025, the third project bringing our production to over 450 ounces of gold equivalent and annualized by then. A little bit of detail on our 3 projects. Almas is the one that I mentioned. It's almost completed. Construction is over 92% completed at this stage. We announced this project in early 2021 with an expected capex of $75 million. We're going to deliver the project with this capex, which for us is a big achievement in this inflationary environment. We started construction in late 21. It's going to be delivered in just 16 months, which is also a very short time frame to build a project in our point of view. This is the project that I was mentioning at the beginning, has over 100% expected internal rate of return based on feasibility study numbers for 17 years, which is the life of the mine of this project. Next is going to be Borborema. It's a project we acquired in September of last year. We have a partnership with Dundee Resources here, or owns 80% of the project, and Dundee owns another 20% of this project. Borborema has over 2 million ounces of measured and indicated resources and 1 million ounces of 2P reserves, which can become the 2 million ounces in reserves if over the years we're able to move one road that crosses part of the deposit and therefore reduce the 2 million ounces of resources into reserves. But it's still, even with 1 million ounces, is a very interesting project with good economics. Q2 of 23, the next quarter, we expect to be very busy. We're going to put out a new feasibility study. This project has a feasibility study which was published in Australia, JORC compliant. We're going to convert it for a 30101, and we also expect in the next quarter to announce the start of construction, high-level timeline on the big milestones on this project, and also what's going to be the funding strategy. And the last one is Matupá, is in the state of Mato Grosso. Is the same state in Brazil where we have our mine in Brazil, EPP. Matupá, we put a feasibility study last year in November. We can build a mine. We have already 300,000 ounces of reserves, which would be enough to build a mine which would last 6 or 7 years. What seems short, but the economics are very interesting. The strip ratio for this project is 1 to 3. So we expected the cash cost for this project to be the lowest in our portfolio, but it's still this, because it's the last project that is in our pipeline, is the one we know the least in terms of geology. We're investing this year, next year. We expect to continue investing more in geology and exploration to see increasing the reserves. In that area, we have many neighbors who are drilling and finding deposits like Anglo, Yamana, Feeds, Codelco. We are, besides the deposit, which we already have a study, we are finding interesting results. There is a nearby area in which we published late last year, 81 meters at 3.9 grams per ton, or 59 meters, 3.14 grams per ton. So it gives us one indication that probably during this year, while we finish building Almas, start building Borborema, we can advance the works in exploration, and when we announce Matupá next year, it's going to be a larger deposit. Not going to go in detail, but just to highlight that we have in our properties over 650,000 hectares, in which, for historical reasons, Aura has underinvested in exploration. We know, geologically speaking, around 10% on average. So there is a lot still that we can invest to try to find in new deposits and increase the resources of the company over time. In terms of valuation, bring here one study that was put out by Raymond James late last year. On the top of the chart, it's a PNAV for according to the size of the producers. As we all know, size matters. The larger the producers, the higher the valuation. We are considered at this stage an intermediate producer, which trades lower than large or senior producers. So as we grow from the 240,000 ounces close to 500,000 ounces in few years, we do expect to see our multiples to improve and our valuation also to improve. So that's going to help in one side. But it's still, even before 3 years from now, we still have opportunities because we are trading at 0.47, a significant discount compared to our peer group, which is probably the result of a few people knowing us, although we were number one on TSX and highest dividend yield in the world in 2021. When we come to conferences like this, many people tell us they never heard of Aura, so that's why we're here, and probably increasing awareness is going to drive the increase in the valuation. Also, probably since our growth depends on putting production 3 greenfield projects in Brazil in the next years, especially in the last 2 years, there is a lot of concerns over capex overruns. So we believe this year is going to be critical for Aura because we're going to be able to deliver the first project on time, on budget, and according to the economics, and therefore building our credibility to build the next next two projects, and therefore that should drive also the valuation up. And finally, in terms of corporate summary, we're trading at 700 million Canadian dollars currently. I already mentioned about the cash, close to $130 million. We have a controlling shareholder, Northwestern Enterprises, that owns 53%, is a Brazilian family, the Brito family. They are very traditional investors in the mining space. Besides investing in gold and copper through Aura, they invest in iron ore. They have a partnership with Vale in Brazil. And they were one of the founders of Yamana Gold and the former controlling shareholder of Yamana in the early 2000s. They acquired the control of Aura Minerals in 2016, and it started a turnaround story by bringing new management, new assets, and new story, and all the transformation that we saw between 2018 and where the company is today. Okay, so this is just a summary. Number one performance TSX, we expect to keep on that path. We're paying dividends and growing. When we first announced this 2 years ago, we got a lot of skepticism that we should choose either to pay dividends or grow. Right now, we are finishing building one project and paying dividends, so we're showing that's possible. We have a clear path and projects in-house to increase another 90%. Our cash costs are in the second quartile, so we're strong in terms of costs as well. One thing that I didn't mention, but it's relevant, we're the first and only gold producer listed in the Brazilian Stock Exchange, so that brings us benefits for financing Almas project, for example. We issued Brazilian bonds in Brazil 1.5 years ago to pay in 5 years, it's fully funded by the Brazilian bonds. The cost was below 6% per year, fixed rate. So that gives us one competitive advantage. Besides being listed in Canada, we also have the Brazilian side, and then sometimes when the Canadian side is not very favorable in either debt or equity, you have the Brazilian market that might be favorable and fund our growth. And I think that's it, and open to any questions.